In a distant kingdom, surrounded by misty mountains and dense forests, there lay a grand palace shimmering under the golden sun. This kingdom, though prosperous and peaceful on the surface, was whispered to be cursed. Tales passed down through generations spoke of an ancient spell cast upon the royal family, one that promised misfortune to the heir if greed and betrayal ever touched the throne. Most dismiss these stories as mere legends, but in the hearts of the kingdom's people, a quiet fear lingered. Within the palace walls lived Prince Arin, the only child of the widowed King Aldric. Arin was known throughout the kingdom for his kindness and wisdom despite his youth. He had a gentle heart and a keen mind, always ready to help those in need. Whether it was resolving disputes among villagers or offering comfort to the sick, Arin's presence was a beacon of hope. Yet, beneath his warm smile lay a vulnerability. He trusted too easily. His father often warned him that not all who smiled in friendship held pure intentions, but Arin's heart refused to believe in the darkness that others were capable of. The people loved their prince deeply, seeing him as the future of the kingdom, but whispers of the ancient curse always shadowed his path. It was said that the heir to the throne would face a great trial, one born from deceit and jealousy. If the prince ever fell victim to this treachery, he would be trapped, his heart and soul bound forever. No one knew if this curse was real, but the fear of its truth clung to the kingdom like an unseen fog. Despite these foreboding tales, life in the kingdom continued peacefully. The prince grew stronger and wiser each day, his heart still untouched by malice. But fate, as always, had its own plans. Beyond the castle gates, unseen eyes watched, and a dark ambition stirred. A force that would soon test Prince Arin in ways no one could have imagined. After years of mourning the loss of his beloved queen, King Aldric made a decision that would change the course of the kingdom's future. The royal court buzzed with excitement and curiosity when news spread that the king was to marry again. His bride, Lady Malvera, was a woman of striking beauty who had arrived from a distant land. With her raven black hair, piercing emerald eyes, and a graceful demeanour, she quickly captured the attention of all who met her. To the kingdom, she seemed like a blessing, a new queen to heal the king's broken heart and bring warmth back to the castle. But beneath her charming exterior lay a heart filled with ambition and a mind consumed by greed. Malvera had not come for love. Her heart knew no tenderness, no genuine affection. From the moment she laid eyes on the grand palace and the power the royal family held, she desired only one thing: absolute control. She had spent years mastering the art of deception, hiding her true nature behind soft words and delicate smiles. To the outside world, she was a woman of grace and kindness. But in her private moments, her mind was always plotting, weaving schemes to secure her place as the kingdom's most powerful figure. She knew that as long as Prince Arin stood next in line to the throne, her ambition would remain unfulfilled. From the day she entered the palace, Malvera began her manipulation with subtle precision. She showered King Aldric with affection, speaking words of comfort and loyalty. Whenever he doubted himself or the burdens of ruling grew heavy, she was there, offering solace and wisdom. Slowly but surely, the king grew to depend on her presence. He believed he had found not only a wife, but a partner who would stand by his side and protect the kingdom. What he did not see, however, was how Malvera's influence began to isolate him from those who had once been his closest advisors. While she worked to strengthen her hold over the king, her feelings toward Prince Arin were far from warm. From the very beginning, she viewed him as a threat, a reminder that the throne would never be hers as long as he lived. Despite his kindness, Arin's mere existence stirred a cold fury within her heart. She masked her true feelings well, pretending to care for him as any stepmother should. But behind closed doors, her mind was already crafting ways to weaken him in the king's eyes. She began planting seeds of doubt in subtle, cunning ways. Whenever Arin made a mistake, no matter how small, she magnified it before the king. If the prince showed kindness, she twisted it into weakness. When he spoke with confidence, she painted it as arrogance. And though King Aldrich loved his son dearly, the constant whispers from his new queen began to cloud his judgment. Slowly, the warmth between father and son grew distant. Malvera's manipulation did not stop there. She paid attention to the prince's routines, his strengths, and his vulnerabilities. She noticed how easily he trusted others, how his heart always sought the good in people. It was a trait she knew could be exploited. With each passing day, her plans became bolder. She used servants loyal to her to spread quiet rumors about the prince's lack of readiness to rule. In the royal court, her influence spread like a shadow, unnoticed yet ever present. For Arin, the change in his father was painful but difficult to understand. The once open conversations they shared became brief and formal. The warmth in his father's eyes dimmed, replaced by a weariness Arin could not explain. He tried to win back the closeness they once had, but every attempt seemed to push his father further away. And behind it all stood Malvera, watching, waiting, knowing that her ultimate goal was drawing closer. As months turned into years, the kingdom celebrated the union of the king and his new queen. But beneath the glittering surface, darkness grew. Malvera's power over the king became unshakable, and her hatred for the prince deepened. In her heart, she knew that mere manipulation would never be enough. If she truly wanted the throne, Prince Arin had to be removed, not just from the line of succession, but from the world itself. And so, in the silent chambers of the castle, the wicked stepmother began to prepare her most dangerous scheme. A trap so cruel and cunning that even the prince's pure heart would not escape its grasp. Malvera knew that simple manipulation would not be enough to remove Prince Arin from her path. The prince was beloved by the people, and despite the growing distance between father and son, King Aldrich's heart still held a deep affection for his child. If she wanted to ensure her complete dominance over the kingdom, she needed something stronger, something no one could resist or undo. It was then that Malvera turned to the darkest of arts, a power she had long kept hidden from the world. Late at night, when the castle lay in silence, Malvera would retreat to a hidden chamber beneath the palace. This ancient room, concealed behind heavy stone walls, was a relic of a time when the kingdom was plagued by sorcery. There, under the flickering light of black candles, she summoned forces that had not been touched in centuries. Among the forbidden relics she uncovered was a talisman, a cursed object forged in an age of darkness. It was said that this talisman held the power to trap a soul forever, imprisoning its victim in a world of illusions where time had no meaning. Anyone captured by it would remain lost, unseen, and unheard, while life moved on without them. With the talisman in her possession, Malvera's confidence grew, but magic alone was not enough. She needed to ensure that no one would question Arin's disappearance. For weeks, she carefully wove a web of lies around the prince. She whispered to the king that Arin was becoming restless and rebellious, that he questioned his father's rule and sought to claim the throne before his time. Each day she added new layers to her deception, painting the prince as a threat rather than an heir. Whenever the prince tried to speak with his father, Malvera ensured the king was too busy or too weary to listen. And when the king did hear his son's words, Malvera twisted them later, casting doubts upon his intentions. Rumours began to spread through the palace, quiet at first, but growing louder with each passing day. Servants loyal to Malvera carried tales of how the prince sought power for himself, how he dismissed his father's wisdom, and how he viewed the king's rule as weak. King Aldrich, already burdened by the pressures of ruling, found himself increasingly torn. The prince he had once trusted without question now seemed distant, even dangerous. Malvera's poison worked its way deep into his heart, leaving him uncertain of his own son's loyalty. Prince Arin sensed the change around him. The warmth he had known all his life was fading, replaced by cold glances and whispered suspicions. Even the people who had once admired him now seemed wary. No matter how he tried to prove himself, the shadow of doubt clung to him. Yet, despite the growing isolation, Arin's heart remained pure. He refused to believe his stepmother meant him harm, even as her influence over his father grew stronger. One evening, Malvera put the final stage of her plan into motion. Under the pretense of reconciliation, she invited Arin to a private gathering deep within the castle's oldest wing. It was a place few dared to enter, a forgotten hall where echoes of the kingdom's past lingered. She sent him a message in the king's name, asking him to attend alone. Believing that this could be a chance to mend the broken bond with his father, Arin accepted without hesitation. The hall was dimly lit when Arin arrived, the air heavy with an unnatural chill. At the centre stood Malvera, dressed in a flowing black gown that shimmered like shadows. Her smile was warm, but her eyes glinted with something far colder. She welcomed him graciously, speaking of peace and family unity. She told him that the king regretted their distance and that this meeting was meant to bring them back together. Arin, ever hopeful, believed her words and stepped closer. As he did, Malvera revealed the talisman. Its surface gleamed like polished obsidian, swirling with dark energy. Before Arin could react, she began to chant, words ancient and harsh, cutting through the silence like a blade. The prince felt a strange pull in his chest, as if an unseen hand was reaching into his soul. Panic surged through him as the world around him seemed to blur and twist. He tried to resist, calling out for his father, but no voice came. The shadows grew thicker, wrapping around him as the talisman's curse took hold. In his final moments before being consumed, he saw Malvera's smile change, no longer warm, but cold and victorious. With a final flash of dark light, Prince Arin vanished, his body and soul imprisoned within the cursed talisman, lost to the world. When the gathering ended, Malvera emerged alone, her expression sorrowful. She told the king and the court that Arin had confessed his desire to seize the throne and, overwhelmed by guilt, had fled the kingdom to avoid disgrace. With no trace of the prince to be found, her lies were accepted as truth. The heir to the throne was gone, and no one but Malvera knew the terrible fate that had befallen him. With Arin trapped and the king's spirit broken, Malvera stood on the brink of achieving everything she had ever desired. Yet, deep within the talisman, the prince's soul remained, bound but unyielding, waiting for a chance to break free. As the final words of Malvera's dark incantation echoed through the ancient hall, a surge of black energy erupted from the talisman. Prince Arin felt an invisible force pulling at his very soul, dragging him away from the world he knew. His vision blurred, and the stone walls of the castle faded into darkness. When the haze lifted, he found himself trapped in a place unlike anything he'd ever seen. A shimmering, endless hall of mirrors. The mirror prison was a realm born of ancient magic, designed to imprison souls in a world where time had no power. Everywhere Arin turned, he saw countless reflections of himself, each one distorted and unfamiliar. The floor beneath him was smooth as glass, stretching infinitely in every direction, and the air was thick with an eerie silence. No matter how far he walked, the prison never changed. It was a place where no door existed, no exit could be found, and no voice could reach beyond its walls. At first, Arin refused to believe what had happened. He called out for his father, hoping the king would come to his rescue. But no answer came. Panic swelled within him as he pounded against the reflective walls. But they did not break. Desperation clawed at his heart as he realized he was utterly alone. And then the curse's cruelest magic began to take hold. The prison did not simply confine his body. It trapped his mind in a cycle of memories, endlessly replaying the moments that mattered most. At first, the memories were happy. Arin saw himself as a child, laughing as his mother held him close. He relived days spent riding through the kingdom with his father, hearing the king's words of pride and love. But as time stretched on, the memories grew darker. The warmth of his childhood faded into the cold distance his father had shown in recent months. He saw again and again the way the king's eyes had hardened with suspicion. Every word Malvera had whispered echoed through his mind, each one twisting into poison. The worst torment of the mirror prison was that it never allowed its captives to forget their pain. No matter how much Arin tried to escape his thoughts, the curse forced him to relive his greatest regrets. He saw himself reaching out to his father, only to be turned away. He felt the ache of knowing that his kindness had been mistaken for weakness. And with each passing memory, the hope of ever being freed grew dimmer. Meanwhile, in the real world, Malvera moved quickly to cover her tracks. She destroyed the note she had sent in the king's name and dismissed the servants who had witnessed Arin enter the secret chamber. Any trace of the prince's disappearance was erased with cold precision. When the king inquired about his son's absence, Malvera delivered her final and most devastating lie. She claimed that Arin had grown tired of living in his father's shadow and had fled the kingdom to seize power elsewhere. At first, King Aldrich refused to believe it. His heart rebelled against the thought that his son would betray him. But Malvera was patient and cunning, and she played upon the doubts she had already planted. She reminded the king of Arin's recent restlessness and pointed to his absence as proof of his ambition. Without any evidence to contradict her, the king's mind slowly succumbed to her poison. As days turned into weeks and there was no sign of the prince, the king's hope withered. He sent riders across the kingdom to search for his son, but every effort ended in failure. Whispers began to spread throughout the palace that the prince had abandoned his people, and though it broke his heart, King Aldrich began to believe them. Malvera, ever the dutiful wife, comforted the grieving king while secretly reveling in her triumph. With the heir to the throne gone, there was no one left to stand in her way. But while the kingdom moved on, Arin remained trapped in the timeless prison. Without sunlight or stars to mark the passage of days, he lost all sense of time. The endless repetition of his memories chipped away at his spirit, yet a part of him refused to surrender. Deep in his heart, Arin held on to the belief that someone, his father, a friend, Perhaps even fate itself would find a way to free him. And so, even as the curse sought to break him, Prince Arin endured. In the shimmering depths of the mirror prison, he clung to the hope that one day the truth would be revealed and his captivity would end. But with each passing moment, the walls grew colder, and the echoes of Malvera's laughter haunted his dreams. He knew that if no one came for him soon, the curse would consume him completely, and the prince the kingdom had once loved would be lost forever. After Prince Arin's mysterious disappearance, the kingdom began to fall into a slow but inevitable decline. Once a land of peace and prosperity, the absence of the beloved prince cast a long shadow over the hearts of the people. Where there had once been harmony, now there was uncertainty. The king, once strong and wise, grew distant and weary. Without his son by his side, his spirit weakened and the burden of ruling seemed heavier than ever before. The people, who had trusted King Aldrich for years, began to question his leadership. How could a king who could not protect his own son protect the kingdom? Markets grew quieter, fields yielded less harvest, and rumours spread like wildfire. Fear took root in the hearts of commoners. If Prince Arin had truly abandoned them, what hope did they have for the future? Bandits grew bold, attacking villages on the kingdom's borders. Without the prince's steady hand to mediate disputes, conflicts arose between noble families. The kingdom that had once thrived under the rule of a just king now seemed fragile and uncertain. In the castle, the change was even more apparent. King Aldrich, once known for his wisdom and fairness, became reclusive. He rarely addressed his people and withdrew from the affairs of state. He spent hours alone in his chambers, haunted by the thought that his son had betrayed him. Despite the search parties he sent across the land, no trace of Arin was ever found. With each passing day, his hope faded further, and Malvera's influence over him grew stronger. Malvera, ever calculating and patient, seized the opportunity to expand her power. With the prince gone and the king consumed by grief, there was no one left to challenge her authority. She presented herself as the kingdom's savior, the only one capable of maintaining order during such turbulent times. Under the guise of protecting the realm, she persuaded the king to grant her more power, first as his chief advisor and soon after as Queen Regent. Her decisions became law, and anyone who dared question her faced swift punishment. With the throne nearly within her grasp, Malvera began to reshape the kingdom according to her desires. She raised new taxes under the pretense of strengthening the kingdom's defences, but the wealth flowed directly into her private coffers. Loyal ministers and noble families who had once served the king faithfully were dismissed or mysteriously vanished. In their place, Malvera appointed those who owed their loyalty only to her. Even the king's most trusted knights were sent away on fruitless missions, ensuring that no one remained who could oppose her. The people, once full of pride for their kingdom, now lived in fear. Malvera's spies lurked in every corner, listening for dissent. The open laughter that once filled the marketplace grew quiet as distrust spread among neighbours. Stories of Malvera's cruelty began to surface, of farmers who lost their lands for failing to pay impossible taxes, and of servants who vanished if they spoke against her. But in the darkness, hope still flickered. Despite Malvera's efforts to erase Prince Arin's memory, the people did not forget their rightful heir. In the quiet corners of villages and around late-night fires, whispers spread. Whispers that the prince was not truly gone. Old women spoke of the ancient curse, claiming that Arin had been trapped by magic too powerful for any ordinary person to break. Some believed that he was imprisoned in a realm beyond the reach of man, waiting for the day he would return to reclaim his throne. Legends grew around his disappearance. Some said that on nights when the moon was full, you could hear the prince's voice calling from beyond the veil of this world. Others claimed that a hero would one day rise to break the curse and restore him to the throne. No matter how harsh Malvera's rule became, these stories refused to die. They became a symbol of resistance, a reminder that the kingdom's true prince still lived. Even within the castle walls, Malvera could not extinguish these rumours. Though she sat beside the king and held the reins of power, she knew that as long as the people believed in Prince Arin's return, her victory was incomplete. Deep in her heart, a sliver of fear remained, the fear that one day the curse would break and the prince she had trapped would rise again. And so, while the kingdom suffered under her rule and the king grew weaker with each passing day, the legend of Prince Arin endured. In the darkest corners of the land, hope lived on, waiting for the moment when the true heir would return and the wicked stepmother's reign would finally come to an end. Amidst the growing darkness in the kingdom, one heart refused to lose hope. Lira, Prince Arin's childhood friend and most loyal handmaiden. While others accepted Malvera's lies, Lira could not believe that the prince had abandoned his father or his people. She had known Arin since they were children, and she remembered his kindness, his laughter, and the way he always put others before himself. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and Lira was determined to uncover the truth. Unlike the courtiers and nobles who feared Malvera's wrath, Lira was clever and cautious. She knew better than to speak her suspicions aloud. Instead, she observed in silence, watching Malvera's every move. While the rest of the palace was fooled by the queen's facade, Lira noticed the small, hidden things, the locked chamber that no one entered, the strange symbols she glimpsed on Malvera's jewellery, and the way the queen's smile never quite reached her eyes. The deeper she looked, the more certain she became. Malvera had done something to Prince Arin. Late one night, after the castle had fallen into silence, Lira slipped into the king's library. This ancient room held scrolls and books that stretched back to the kingdom's founding. If there were answers to be found, they would be here. By the flicker of a dim candle, she searched through dusty tomes, focusing on anything related to curses and dark magic. Hours passed as she pored over faded pages, her eyes burning with exhaustion. Just when she thought all hope was lost, she discovered an old, leather-bound book hidden behind a row of heavier volumes. Its cover was marked with a strange silver symbol, a perfect circle surrounded by jagged lines. As she opened the book, the words seemed to pulse with ancient power. The text described a forbidden spell known as the Mirror Prison, a curse so cruel it was believed to have been lost to time. According to the book, this magic trapped its victims in an endless maze of mirrors, a world where time stood still, and the prisoner was forced to relive their memories forever. Lira's heart pounded as she read further. The description matched too closely with Prince Arin's disappearance to be a coincidence. The book also revealed a chilling truth. There was only one way to break the curse, but it would not be easy. The spell could only be undone by shattering the cursed talisman that held the prisoner's soul. Worse still, the talisman could not be broken by ordinary means. It required a special ritual, one only known by those who practice the oldest forms of magic. With every revelation, Lira grew more certain. Malvera had trapped Prince Arin in the Mirror Prison. If she did nothing, he would be lost forever. But Lira was not one to give up easily. She knew she could not face Malvera alone. The Queen's power was too great, but perhaps there was someone else who could help. Deep in the woods beyond the castle, there was a legend of an ancient sorcerer who had once served the royal family. Some claimed he had vanished years ago, but others whispered that he still lived, hidden from the world. If anyone could teach her how to break the curse, it would be him. At dawn, with nothing but a cloak and the ancient book tucked beneath her arm, Lira slipped away from the castle. The journey was perilous. The forests beyond the kingdom had grown wild and dangerous under Malvera's rule. Strange beasts roamed the shadows, and no one who ventured too far from the safety of the village walls returned. But Lira pressed on, her loyalty to Prince Arin giving her courage. She followed the clues written in the ancient text, travelling deeper into the heart of the forest, where the world felt older and more mysterious. After days of searching, she found herself at the mouth of a hidden cave. The air was thick with magic, and a faint golden light glowed from within. Gathering her resolve, she stepped inside. The cave twisted and turned until it opened into a grand chamber. At its centre sat an old man cloaked in robes the colour of midnight. His hair was silver as moonlight, and his eyes, though ancient, burned with a fierce intelligence. This was the sorcerer, Eldrin, the last of the kingdom's great magic wielders. Lira fell to her knees and begged for his help. She told him everything: the prince's disappearance, Malvera's rise to power, and the curse she had discovered. For a long moment, Eldrin was silent. Then, with a sigh, he nodded. He had known that dark magic had returned to the kingdom, and now he understood its source. But breaking the mirror prison was no simple task. Eldrin warned her that the ritual to destroy the talisman was as dangerous as the curse itself. It required the blood of one who loved the prisoner deeply, and the risk was grave. If the ritual failed, both the rescuer and the prisoner would be lost forever. Yet despite the danger, Lira did not hesitate. She would do whatever it took to save Prince Arin. With a wave of his hand, Eldrin revealed an ancient dagger and a vial filled with shimmering blue liquid, ingredients needed for the ritual. He told her to return to the castle and wait for the right moment. When the moon was at its highest and the talisman's magic was at its weakest, she would have a single chance to break the curse. If she failed, there would be no second attempt. Armed with newfound knowledge and unshakable determination, Lira began her journey back to the castle. She knew the road ahead would be treacherous. Malvera was more powerful and cunning than anyone realized. But no matter the cost, she would not let Prince Arin remain trapped in the shadows. Hope had returned to the kingdom, carried on the shoulders of a brave and loyal handmaiden who would stop at nothing to bring her prince home. The night of the full moon arrived, casting a pale silver glow over the castle. Lira, hidden beneath the shadows of the palace corridors, clutched the ancient dagger and vial Eldrin had given her. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she crept toward Malvera's private chambers, where she knew the cursed talisman was hidden. This was her only chance to save Prince Arin, and there was no room for mistakes. Inside the chamber, Malvera stood before a blackened mirror, her face illuminated by the cold glow of magic. The talisman hung from her neck, a gleaming obsidian pendant, pulsing faintly as if it held a heart of its own. She had grown stronger, more dangerous, feeding off the kingdom's fear and the prince's imprisonment. Lira knew she could not defeat the queen by strength alone, but her loyalty to Arin gave her a courage no magic could break. Summoning every ounce of bravery, Lira stepped forward. "Your reign of lies ends tonight, Malvera," she declared, her voice steady despite the fear curling in her stomach. Malvera turned slowly, her lips curling into a cold smile. "Ah, the little servant," she said mockingly. "I wondered when you might try something foolish. Did you think you could outsmart me? Without waiting for an answer, Malvera raised her hand, and a dark wave of energy lashed toward Lira. The blast sent her crashing against the stone wall, pain shooting through her body. But she didn't let go of the dagger. This was the moment Eldrin had warned her about. If she hesitated, all would be lost. Struggling to her feet, Lira pulled a length of shimmering silk from beneath her cloak. It was no ordinary fabric. This was the royal ancestral silk, woven centuries ago and blessed by the kingdom's first ruler. According to the ancient text, it had the power to break illusions and remind lost souls of who they truly were. With a swift motion, Lira hurled the silk toward the blackened mirror. As the silk touched the glass, a crack split across its surface, and for the first time, Lira saw Prince Arin's reflection. His face was pale and weary, but his eyes still burned with the same kindness she remembered. "Prince Arin," she cried out, "remember who you are. Your kingdom needs you." Word of Malvera's downfall spread quickly, and the people rejoiced at the return of their beloved prince. Bells rang in every village, and banners of gold and royal blue fluttered in the wind. Arin wasted no time in undoing the damage Malvera had caused. He released the innocent prisoners she had condemned, restored the lands she had stolen, and abolished the cruel laws she had imposed. He also honored those who had stood by him, even when hope seemed lost. Lira, for her courage and unwavering loyalty, was given a place of high honor in the royal court. But more than titles or rewards, it was Arin's personal gratitude that mattered most. In the quiet moments away from the throne, he often sought her company, recognizing that her heart and wisdom had saved not only his life, but the soul of the kingdom. The kingdom itself began to bloom again. With Malvera's dark magic broken, the land grew fertile and prosperous. The people, once weighed down by fear, found joy in their work and hope in their futures. And while the scars of the past remained, they served as a reminder of the strength found in unity and truth. As the seasons changed and peace returned, the legend of Prince Arin and the wicked stepmother became a story passed down through generations. It was said that on the clearest nights, you could still hear Malvera's distant cries echoing from the remnants of the shattered mirror, an eternal warning against the dangers of greed and dark magic. But within the castle, there was no room for such darkness. Under Prince Arin's rule, justice and kindness flourished. And though the road had been long and full of hardship, the prince and his people knew one unshakable truth. No matter how powerful evil might seem, it could never stand against the light of loyalty, love, and the courage to fight for what is right. With Malvera defeated and the kingdom freed from her dark magic, a new dawn rose over the land. Prince Arin, having endured betrayal and imprisonment, returned to his rightful place as the kingdom's future ruler. But he was no longer the trusting and sheltered prince he had once been. His journey had transformed him into a wiser, stronger leader who understood the true value of loyalty, justice, and courage. Through his trials, Arin learned that truth will always triumph over lies. Malvera's schemes had nearly destroyed the kingdom, but in the end, her own greed became her downfall. The curse she had cast on others became the prison that held her forever. Her fate stood as a warning to all who sought power through deception. That darkness could never truly conquer light. Another lesson that stayed with Arin was the importance of trusting those who truly cared for him. In his darkest moments, it was not magic or strength that saved him. It was Lira's unwavering loyalty and courage. Without her faith and determination, he would have been lost forever. Arin knew now that a ruler's greatest strength came not from power alone, but from the people who stood by him and the truth he upheld. Under his leadership, the kingdom entered a new era of peace and prosperity. The fear that had shadowed the land was replaced by hope, and the people flourished under Arin's just and compassionate rule. He worked tirelessly to repair the damage Malvera had caused, restoring fairness, protecting the weak, and ensuring that no one in his kingdom would ever suffer under tyranny again. And by his side was Lira, no longer just a humble handmaiden, but a trusted advisor and cherished friend. Together, they reminded the people that even in the face of darkness, light and truth would always prevail. As the years passed, the story of Prince Arin's return became a legend, a testament to the power of truth, the strength of loyalty, and the belief that no curse is ever stronger than the courage to fight for what is right.